Not too long ago, a new tent was put up at the thrift shop. I stopped by and saw several men scratching their heads over the directions. There were hundreds and hundreds of little screws and washers, and apparently the directions were not all that clear. There were even a couple of retired civil engineers who couldn't figure it out. I put myself in that group that dreads those three little words, "some assembly required." But having said that, the tent was successfully raised. I didn't return to see if they had used all those little screws and washers. I usually have a few left over when I finish a task. But it is great when things finally get together and go together so nicely. And that's really what happens on the feast that we celebrate today, Pentecost. It's the day when the apostles are given the gift of the Spirit. And from that time on, the death, resurrection, and ascension made sense to them. So much sense that as they were inspired by the Spirit, they left the upper room and would preach about Jesus to all who would hear. They were still individuals with different gifts, but what made the difference, what made things come together and work as they should, was they put those gifts to the service of the others. The second reading reminds us that there are different gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different ministries, but the same Lord. Paul was addressing the people of his day who were tending to be jealous of one another, that my gift is better than yours, or your gift is better than mine. Paul says they're all good gifts, and they need to be put to the service of the other. Perhaps a way to allow the scriptures to speak to you and me this morning is to reflect on what our own particular gifts are. We all have them to one degree or another. All of us have certain God-given talents, abilities, powers, call them what you will. The challenge that we have is to be conscious of that gift and to see how that gift can be used to help others. Within each of us, there is something of real value and worth. It may not be what the other has, and we may spend far too much time wishing for something else. But the secret of life and happiness is to see what it is that I do possess and that I can put to service of the community. I know, and you probably know, people who live at the extremes. Some put all their gifts to the service of others, perhaps on a famous level, such as Mother Teresa. But it could also be with the ordinary person who gives his or her time, talent, and treasure to others. Just last Monday, the parish had the opportunity to thank the 140 volunteers who give their time and talent at the thrift shop. That's a lot of folks who volunteer on a regular basis. At the opposite end of the spectrum, we know people who are selfish, excessively self-centered, caring only for themselves and their own needs. Our prayer today is that we continue to try to be the first type, however imperfectly we achieve it. Let us be open to the Spirit moving in our lives and ask the Lord to help us to use the gifts we have been given to help one another.